Welcome back to the Tekamo HD podcast series, sponsored by the best rubber tracks, tools, and part supplier on the internet, FortisHD.com. The goal of this podcast is to learn more about the realities of being a heavy equipment mechanic, whether you're considering getting into the trade or maybe you're deep into it already. We're hoping to pass on the knowledge by sharing some of the conversations we have with mechanics all over the world. Today we're talking with Hunter from Texas. Hunter's been primarily an ag mechanic for over 7 years now. Let's hear his story.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, man. How's it going with you?
Staying out of this heat. It's been torrential today.
What's the temperature there?
We're still sitting at 100 degrees.
Oh, beautiful.
It's just how it goes, man. Welcome to Texas.
Welcome to Texas. So you're right outside of San Antonio then, right?
It's a little bitty old, you'll drive right past it and miss it kind of thing. But surrounded by farm country and, green, yellow, red. I've got all the colors of the different tractors around here. And I moved out here from the hustle and bustle of the big city just to stay quiet and experience more on the agricultural side of machinery. It's easier to have a short commute to where I'm working at currently and then, driving 45 minutes to an hour just to go sit in the shop and dread every day.
So when you say big city, was that San Antonio or Houston?
Yes, San Antonio is a big city for us. San Antonio and Fort Worth are our two biggest ones.
Yeah.
Third one would be Austin. Yeah.
Yeah, I think people in Texas call San Antonio a big city that has a little feel to it or something to that effect.
Something like that. Yes, sir. Yeah, you're right on the money.
Tell me where you grew up. How'd you get started? Where you're from? San Antonio?
No, I'm from a little town just say east of that, northeast of that Germantown.
Yeah.
It was little when I was born there and growing up. German bloodline. One of my family was one of the founding families of that town back in the 1800s, and we've kind of just never left. From there, I moved just outside of San Antonio, more interstate than anything, and I just that side of life wasn't for me. I prefer being out in open spaces and watching the machinery work. I've been a machinery nut since I was about 6. Green has been my main color. In terms of turning wrenches, I started turning wrenches at about 15 years old here, which seems kind of late for some people and kind of early for others. Just depends on who you talk to. But I started wrenching on four-wheel vehicles, your meters and some equipment, and then stepped on into semis. And I did that for about 2 years. And I wanted something different, so then I stepped over to John Deere. They run up and down the I-35 corridor north of, or from the very top of the United States to the very bottom, and then some. And worked with them for about a year on the construction and forestry side. And then from there, I, wanted to get back to my farming roots and decided to step back away. Worked at Sunbelt just to get through about a year's worth of time from trying to move from San Antonio here into Seguin. And then once I finally was settled in and doing some odd jobs here and there, I found the local John Deere dealership was hiring, and I've been with them for going on about 3 years, give or take. But I've got a lot of experience based in after treatments, hydraulics, and engine performance. Those are my three main. But turning wrenches has been my thing for forever. I haven't wanted to do anything else but turn wrenches. And, I think I'm fairly decent at it. I make a decent life's work out of it. But, I was always looking for that step up everywhere I can and not stepping on any toes, but definitely find the next rung on the ladder, if you know what I mean.
So what do you think in your area right now? What do you think there's enough mechanics there? Do you think there's room for independence? Like who has the market in your area there?
Well, it's split up right now on the major manufacturers, but there is definitely room for independent contractors, independent mechanics. We've got a few of them floating around in little trucks doing minor things, but not very many going around in bigger trucks being able to do major repairs like engine pulls, transmission pulls on 8 and 9,000 series, large frame machines. But in terms of working for myself, yeah, I can. With the company I'm currently under, I work both in shop and out of shop, and I cover about a 200-mile radius, depending on the time of year, harvest, planting, cultivating, all that stuff. But so there is space for independent mechanics to go out and make their own name and living. But it's slowly becoming to where if you don't get in now, you ain't getting in, to be an independent. You have to make that happen now, or you're just going to be sitting left in the dust.
Have you seen people around you go independent?
I have seen a couple. I've talked with a couple of them. A lot of them are older gentlemen. They're not young like I am, looking to embrace this independence early. I did forget to mention in my career, I was independent for about a year and a half, just working out of a regular truck. I didn't have a service truck, and I would go around, like I said, about 150 mile radius, just fixing all kinds of stuff. But the independent mechanic thing here, it's older people. It's not young guys who are willing to get out there and get dirty and stay long hours just to keep the customer going. Because I'm not there for the money most of the time. I'm there to get the customer going because I have a little bit of a heartfelt way with them. I want to see them succeed because farming just disappearing fast. But if we can keep going and keep the farmers going, that's just going to keep that alive. I want to see that dwindle to nothing.
Yeah, that's really cool. And do you see that big corporate farms are kind of taking over the independents there?
Where in my location, no, you have to go about 60, 70 miles in a circular area around us to see bigger corporations. And when I say big, I'm talking they're only 4,000 and 5,000 acre personal operations, but they do cater to big companies, stuff like that, big grain mills and big cattle company. But when you say large corporations, I don't see anything that's huge like you would see up there in the plains or in Montana, stuff like that. We're a lot smaller scale farming, but if you were to go a little further south or a little more towards the western side of the state, you would definitely see some bigger machinery, bigger country, bigger farm operations. Mainly in my area currently, it's grassland care, hay farming, and cattle ranching. But we still have our fair share of row croppers. That's slowly disappearing just because the way, land's getting bought up left and right. And it's hard to keep that and keep the younger generation of farmers sticking along with it and keep going. They see this and go, oh, it's too much work. Well, there's still some of us that want to keep going. We're still feeding America, so to speak. We got to keep going.
Yeah, it seems like people forget where their food comes from.
Absolutely. It's becoming a big problem. I see it around here. We were talking about those big cities. You go into San Antonio, Austin, Fort Worth, Dallas, or even the Houston area. You ask somebody where their food comes from, the first thing they say, oh, the grocery store. They don't know where it comes from before that. And that's becoming more evident, and it's honestly it's disheartening. I hate to see that that's what we're coming to as a country. Let's get back to actually knowing where our food comes from, being involved with that, and planting and helping the farmers, and not just trying to cause havoc. That's just a sad thing to see, a sad turn of events to have. In this day and age, pretty soon I have a fear that we're not gonna know what to do when it comes to growing food and keeping ourselves alive.
Yeah, we rely so much on industrial farming and GMO stuff, and they're growing now insects. They want you to eat bugs for your protein intake. That's a pretty interesting concept, but
I don't know about you, but I'm a beef and a steak man. I gotta have my steak.
Yep, I'm with you. Yeah, it's a pretty important source of protein. I don't know how you can get that from grasshoppers, but what do you think the biggest challenges that farmers, the people that you work with, the people that you want to help, what do you think their main challenges they face are right now?
Aside from our sporadic weather, just to dip into that for a little bit, we've had a 3-year dry spell, and this year we've had about 12 tornadoes in our area, which
Wow.
is very unheard of for how far south we are. But I know of a lot of farmers that had a minimal crop damage of about 1,200 acres. That's corn, and corn is the biggest production here for our state in our area. But in terms of what the farmers have to fight, regardless of the weather, is honestly going to be the cost of repairs. The way these bigger mechanic companies or dealerships are making these farmers cash out such high amounts just to keep their machinery going is just ridiculous. These guys, they call us out one time and they see the price of it and they're appalled. And the other thing that goes right alongside with cost is fertilizer and seed. That stuff's becoming so outrageously expensive that it doesn't even seem feasible for a small time farmer to keep going. And with the cost of the feed or the seed and the fertilizer, you would think, oh, we're gonna harvest this amount. We should have a decent crop. Well, even then, the cost per bushel here is staggeringly low. It's almost you look at it as somebody who's not farming ever. If it's somebody who's never farmed comes into this area with us and they start looking at what we have to go through, all we have to do just to keep that crop alive and to get that crop in and then finally get that crop to market, and they see the final outcome of that and they don't understand. So the farmers around here, their biggest thing is cost of keeping the crop alive, fertilizer, pesticide, herbicide, the whole 9 yards, and even just keeping the equipment going. It's becoming more and more ridiculous. The more I talk to farmers, the more they spread out and they find other dealerships that or other companies that try to help them, and they think they're going to get a little bit better deal, but still their pockets are empty and they can't put that towards their families, their kids, all getting drained by how everything's turning out nowadays. And it's very unfortunate. And I hope that at some point in time we see a change, but I don't see it happening anytime soon.
So do you know the prices per hour and the call out rate that farmers, people are currently paying in your region for the ag type machinery to get fixed?
So on ag and turf, just to give a generalization, not trying to pick on any independent manufacturer or company, the standard rate in shop is about $145 to $185 an hour. And for an individual to come out with those companies, we're looking anywhere from $200 to $250 an hour. That's including drive time.
And that's billed door to door. That's correct, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then do they charge a mileage fee as well?
Yes, they do.
Okay. So, and is there a minimum charge? Like sometimes there's a 3 hour, 2 hour, 4 hour, whatever minimum call out.
From what I've heard, no, because they understand that most of the time if a farmer calls on a company to have them come out and repair their equipment, they're going to be going out easily an hour and a half, 2 hours. So I believe, if I was to look at the numbers, we're looking at probably an hour minimum charge just to go out there. And a minimum, I think I've seen anywhere from 20 miles up to a minimum of 60 miles, depending on what the company is,
Is it safe to assume that most of the equipment that you work on or that gets worked on, for that price, is it all newer equipment that all have emissions stuff on it?
In our area, a lot of our farmers, in terms of combines and larger tractors, are not moving to emissions. In terms of the newer equipment, I should say. They're like in the older stuff. We still run quite a few 4,000 series John Deere tractors, a lot of the older internationals. And the combines are all old enough that they don't even have DPFs on them. They're right off the turbo with a muffler. That's just what the farmers like. That's the other side of it. And cost is after treatment is becoming such a necessity, but yet it costs so much to maintain. And a lot of the older farmers in our area, they don't even know what it is and don't want to care to mess with it. They would rather just still work with their older tractors. And then it also comes down to the cost of getting a newer machine. It's outrageous. A mid-sized machine, you're still looking at over $120,000, $130,000 for a new machine. And most farmers, they can't afford that. It goes back to the cost of the fertilizer, cost of the seed, cost of operations. It's becoming outrageous, and I definitely see that and I feel for them. But you've got a new machine, and with our current laws and regulations, you got to have emissions on those machines. So I do a lot of emissions type work. I know this year I've currently replaced 47 def headers, which seems like a pretty great number. And if you look at it from the outside, it is. But from what I do, that's actually pretty minimal. I think last year I did close to 82 or something along those lines.
Probably a large part of your call outs are emissions related, whether it's sensors or whatever else. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And it could be DPF, SCR, it could be the def header communication issues, could be dosing pump communication issues. A lot of the stuff that I do is electronics and emissions related.
And so if you consider the total cost of ownership of those newer equipment with after treatment, DEF, and all the emissions stuff, do you think if you look at it as a total, cost benefit, do you think it actually helps? Because I know that if you take a look at the fuel burn on those machines after they've been tuned, and I don't know about ag stuff, but I know people who've tuned some construction equipment or even vehicles after the warranty expires, they get 50% better fuel economy. It doesn't burn diesel. It doesn't burn smoke. What are your thoughts? Have you ever tried to see how they perform, because if you're burning 50% more fuel, isn't that bad for the environment?
It's not just bad for the environment, it's bad for the machine itself. You're adding more wear and tear. You're adding more back pressure to a system that doesn't need it. Now, I'm going to tell you as an individual, not as somebody who's working for a corporation, I do have a deleted vehicle. And I have found once deleting that, we use the term delete. I shouldn't use that. I should say tuning.
Tuned, yeah.
Once we tune this, I saw an increase of about 5 miles to the gallon on my end. Increase.
Yeah.
And I drive an F-350, and I'm getting 20 and 22 to the gallon. I just recently made a trip up to Wichita, Kansas for some training. And I was, like I said, I was getting about 23 miles to the gallon, which is very unheard of for trucks in general. That after treatment stuff, it's another cost that the farmers have to pay, and even operators, anybody who owns anything that is a diesel car, truck, whatever, tractor, that's an extra cost they have to add. And just to add more wear and tear on their equipment and vehicles. I mean, that's just, if it was up to me, looking at the numbers and what it's causing this to happen, I mean, it's more detrimental. You're using DEF. Now, we already know it's urea and water. So it's somewhat natural, somewhat not, but you're still putting them in plastic jugs. You're still putting them in cardboard boxes, and you're still putting it into your vehicle and your machine. You're creating more issues for that. As soon as you tune that and make that machine run better, you're going to see a better running cost. You're going to have a less fuel consumption, like you had mentioned, and you're just overall, the machine's going to have a better life, and you're going to have a better experience with it.
Less service calls, less fuel burn, less components, less factory parts, less cost to produce, meaning that if the machine costs less money out of the gate, it's going to, the farmer's going to make more profit, and, in theory, the price for what they're producing goes down as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think it's crazy. We've seen a lot of this stuff since it came out. I know many other countries don't use that. In fact, they're still producing brand new equipment without any after treatment for a number of reasons. Yeah. But I think that it seems like such a political issue. Don't like to talk about politics, obviously. I don't know anyone anywhere that loves polluting their environment, right? I'm totally for doing things that contaminate our air, water, and land less. Anything, but I think these things, I don't think it works. I think if anyone that knows can be honest, from engineers to mechanics such as yourself, or farmers, or construction companies, this after treatment emissions prevention additions to engines, I don't think it works.
No, if you look at it, I mean, look at these electric vehicles they're coming out with. Look at the electric equipment they're coming out with. It was already done in a study. You'd have to go back and don't quote me on it, but you can go back and find the study as well. It's been done not too long ago. They found diesel engines are the most efficient and less polluting fuel to burn. And even if you look at it, so okay, we'll take a diesel engine and we'll put it next to an electric engine. Well, an electric engine's got to have batteries. Well, what is batteries made of? They're made of lithium ion. Lithium ion takes thousands and thousands of years to decompose, so to speak. So yes, you can have a little bit less of a carbon footprint, but how long is that going to last? We know. I mean, I don't know are you a mechanic yourself?
No, I'm not. No.
Okay. Well, as a mechanic, I mean, we replace batteries constantly because they don't last, because they're not designed to last. So what happens to those batteries that just get chunked? They go sit in a landfill for thousands of years. They don't decompose. You can bury a battery right now. I'm not saying go do it, but you could bury a battery right now. Go back to it in about 20, 30 years, and it will still be in the exact same shape because it cannot decompose. Everybody says, oh, electric's the new way. Electric's the new way. Not necessarily. From my standpoint on the agricultural side of things, if we have an electric tractor, how are you going to charge that up? A farmer goes out and he plows his field. When he's done, he doesn't take that machine back home. He leaves it sitting in the field because he's probably got to finish that field or go to the next one. How's that battery going to charge? Or looking at electric vehicles, they have a short range. It's not feasible. You're also consuming more electricity, and a lot of times the electricity is produced via coal or nuclear energy. It's not readily available like a water source or anything like that. It's not as green as people are saying it to be. But if you ask anybody that is against, that doesn't like anything that has it's fossil fuel burning, we're horrible as terms of mechanics and people who operate machinery and drive and stuff like that, because we're doing more polluting. But they don't ever go look at the facts. And I know that over here or down here, we still see that. I don't see a lot of it, but we're judged for what we do. Mechanics are just feeding this pollution craze. We're horrible. This is what I've heard and what I've been told. But it's just one of those things.
I know what you mean. I don't think it's targeted towards mechanics. I think that it's just people are living in an ideological world. People just see from the outside, there's a narrative that is pushed, and nobody wants to or has the time or brain power to dig deeper and actually try to understand any of the issues they think they know.
They don't want to see it. They don't want to see the whole picture. They want to see the short term. They want to see what's going to be best right now, not
Yep.
in the future. They keep saying, "Oh, for our kids, our children, our next generations, our future in this planet." Well, that's not what they're looking at. They're looking at what they can do to make themselves feel better.
Yeah.
That's not how this place works. Nothing in this world looks like that.
Yeah, they don't want to know the truth because actually the truth is quite complicated and nuanced. And yeah, it's funny, like the people who protest oil pipelines, um, it's crazy. They've all got they oil in general. They've got iPhones and they drive vehicles, and oil is a pretty important part of our world. I also think that industry for the past probably hundreds of years has suppressed new inventions that have been developed that would literally change the world. And I think that these certain corporations or industries have bought the patents out and shelved and hidden the ideas because they knew that if it was actually developed and if the market worked properly, it would, new inventions. Imagine how the world would be so different if actually new inventions came out that actually worked well, right? Electric cars had been out for 100 years, but they weren't popular. I always wonder the counterfactual of how the world would be if real viable inventions, not these inventions that are like, utopian, great, beautiful ideas. It's actual things that, that the market would want and that would help out. Imagine if things could just be brought to market and let the market decide what works and what doesn't. I think that would be amazing.
And I agree with you, but the biggest picture on that is if you look at all these things that have been invented and have been shelved, a lot of these people are suppressed.
Yeah.
They're suppressed to a point that nobody knows about these things. Nobody knows what they've done, or they're paid to hush hush. And a lot of large corporations have their way with what they want. If they see something that can hurt what they're going to be making money wise, you're going to get suppressed.
Of course.
Your invention, your thoughts, your ideas are not going to be brought out because that's going to hurt them, and that they don't care about anybody but themselves. And I mean, I hate to say it, but that's where too. Nobody cares about anything but themselves and what kind of money they can make in terms of large corporations. Big oil, big gas, everybody's got their hands in something.
Yeah.
They have in ways we can't even comprehend without being a part of that corporation or being a part of that industry.
Yeah.
Entirely 100% agree with you on that.
And of course, like you can't blame someone that, spends their life as a scientist or an inventor and gets offered $100 million or 500 million or $10 million. That's pretty life-changing. I know most scientists love science and they don't have much money. And so if you get offered that, it would be hard to say that, that's the wrong thing to do. But if there's a lot of change humanity, and they've just been bought out and nobody ever hears about it. But of course, the people that get mad and say, "Oh, we need this or we need that," and they protest oil, they should be protesting that stuff. They should go and look at all of the patents that been made and see how the things that we've already came up with, hundreds of years ago, could entirely change the planet and make. I mean, look, it's funny. Look at nuclear power. Nuclear power has such a bad reputation. Who do you think suppressing? I personally think that nuclear power is probably the safest method. And we all know energy creates, the economy, right? Without energy, you will not have economic activity and prosperity. But anyways, that's going down a rabbit hole. We'll stay on track. It's pretty interesting. You're pretty passionate about farming. Your family is deeply rooted in that area there. I've been there. I really like it there. I'm wondering. So you went on your own, like.
I decided, okay, I'm going to step back, started working with the family for a short amount of time. Another opportunity arose. I'm always looking for new things to try, new things to work on. That's when Sunbelt Rentals, major corporation for us. I know they're up in Canada, down in Mexico, over across the pond as well. And They run aerial equipment, and I started working on that. Well, about a week and a half into that, I realized I don't like heights, but I wound up sticking out with it, and it was a good learning corporation, and it didn't get that itch that I was didn't scratch that itch I had, and left them, and right away went over to John Deere, great company. Like I said, I've just been a fanatic for them. I'm a little geek moment. I've been collecting die-cast replicas for years since I was about 6. So anything that's got it's tractor related or farm related, I'm right up there with it, and I'm fascinated. And in fact, I'm currently in the process of restoration on a couple of machines. But working for myself, I really enjoyed it. I was able to connect with those folks better. But it happens. That's also another thing of. But now I'm back to making my customers happy and getting their machines going, and really changing the experiences they've had in the past with other corporations. Like I said, I'm not all here for money. I'm not. I raise cattle on the side. That sounds so small from what I'm saying, but I I'm there for the customer. I want to see them succeed. I want to see them be able to do what they need to do. And I'm in touch with a lot of people. Like I said, in about a 200-mile radius, I'm very in touch with them. I work with a lot of hay farms, a lot of row crop people, and just a few ranchers, not many, because that's really not on my side, is the ranching side of things in terms of mechanic work. But no, it was difficult then, just getting everything set in stone and getting everything to where I can go and so without having lack of better term, go legal, so to speak, not just doing it under the table and having the insurances and getting my name out there and what I can do. It was hard. It was very difficult, and I didn't really have a somebody to help me with that, or even somebody to go ask questions about. I had to kind of figure it out on my own, and even then, that was still a rough process. So just looking, hopefully I can get back into working on my own. I like working with a corporation, but not as much as I do working for myself, because my work and my ethic and my time, my essence of time, and how quickly I can get out to a customer, how quickly I can repair that machinery that's me. But being with a corporation, oh well, that's what that corporation, that's their name, that's their efficiency. No, I would rather have that with me. And I know that sounds kind of selfish, thinking about it, but I would rather them know, okay, well, this is this individual, this is what he can do, and he's not a corporation. I want to see more small time guys go out there and actually achieve that goal and be successful. And it's I'm starting to see it more and more, but it's a slow process. There's not many people I want to see. I want to see more and more and more get out there. Like I said, I think I'd mentioned to you as well that I have a couple of other really close friends, some guys that went to schooling with me before even becoming full-fledged mechanic, that are really looking to do the same thing. They want to get out, get in a vehicle, get in a truck, do their own thing, be their own boss, make their own time, help their own people. And I like to see that. I'm trying to help. There's like 4 of us, so we're trying to all get together and create some type of business, or get together to have each other's backs to make this happen. But even then, that's a slow ball. It's a slow rolling ball.
So clearly, you think that there's a demand from the farmers themselves for a better solution, and better meaning probably more efficient and better priced solution for fixing their equipment.
Absolutely, because if you go to any major corporation or dealership and you ask them, "Hey, how quick can you have it done?" "Oh, we're 2-3 weeks out." Well, a farmer can't wait that long. If you go to a private mechanic and you go, "Hey, how quick can you be out there?" 9 times out of 10, he can tell you, "I'll be out there today or within this week." And that's what a farmer wants to hear, because time is of the essence when farming. Not everything's going to be a perfect day. It's not going to be a perfect day to harvest, perfect day to plant, perfect day to cultivate. You got to work around the weather and everything else, and have that extra downtime because of a piece of equipment, and you not being able to get somebody out there to fix that as efficiently as you can have. Well, that's going to put a kink in everything. But having a private mechanic go out there and say, "I'll be out here this day. I know what needs to be done. This is what we're going to do. We're going to get you rolling no matter what it takes." That's what they're really looking for around here. Now, I mean, you can ask any farmer across the United States. That's the main thing they want. How quick something can get repaired to get back out in the field to make that crop, to make that harvest. That is the biggest ultimate thing that they're looking for.
So the knowledge that your other friends have who are considering also, going out on their own, do you guys complement each other, or you kind of all know about ag, or is there a demand for construction as well, or?
We kind of complement each other. They're learning the ag side off of me, but I am learning a lot of their stuff that they have as well. One gentleman, he works for a local transportation, basically a bus company in a major city. So he's working on public transportation, but his knowledge is a little different than what I can give him on the ag side. Another gentleman, he typically works on lawn and garden, but he is really thriving to get back out and get into the bigger equipment that he's never had a chance to work on. So he will basically, without a better term for him, be an apprentice for a short amount of time just to get that knowledge. And then I do have the fourth gentleman, or the third gentleman, I should say. He works for another corporation, major but different color. If that makes sense. He wants to get out and do his own thing as well. We're all looking to better ourselves and to help get our families going, and just to make our name for ourselves and get away from being stuck in that corporate rut. And it's really weird to say as a mechanic, being in the corporate rut. You look at a mechanic, you don't think, oh, they're part of a corporation, but it's like at least 80% of the mechanics nowadays, they're in a corporation. They're stuck in a corporation because that's the only way to do it, unless they get out and start doing stuff on their own, open their own shop, or get out in a truck and start working on their own things out in the field for people.
So what elements of the corporation hold you back from doing a better job at what you do?
The lack of compassion from higher ups. I mean, I'm talking just above our service manager side. You can ask any mechanic, their service manager, it's a 50-50 whether they care or not. But a lot of corporations, you're just a number. You're not an individual that those people actually have compassion for. You're just there to make them money, and they're going to give you a penny out of their dollar every time because that's what they want. It goes back to the money greed thing. How much money can they make in a year? How much money can we have? How little can we pay these mechanics and keep them within our company to keep them making the money they're making us?
Yeah, no, they probably see the customer the same way as well. How much can we extract from the customer, and how little can we pay the mechanics?
Exactly. Yeah. That's what it's coming down to. How much money? That is the biggest question. How much? No matter where you're at or what you're doing, it's how much. That's what we are at. What's where we're at.
So if they're billing out $200 an hour for an on-site mechanic to go with the service truck and so on, how much do you think a mechanic would make? The guy actually going out there, what do you think he actually makes per hour as an employee?
I wouldn't put it above $50 out of that $200. To be honest with you.
Wow. Okay.
That sounds a little
Probably lower too.
outrageous.
Yeah.
It very well could be. It just depends on who you're with. I know currently where I'm at, that's nowhere near where I'm at.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to sit here and air my dirty laundry, so to speak. But I was being quite generous with that, just to put a little bit of a round number on things, a quarter. I mean, You're probably looking more to the eighth than anything, $10-15, because again, how much money can the company retain for their own pocket, their own bottom line?
The model of that company, do they sell equipment, they service equipment, and they sell parts? Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Would you think that their most profitable division within the company is the service division?
Absolutely, that is the main thing. Because I've explained this to a few people, especially some coworkers. We sit and talk. We kind of have some powwows now and again, just about things in general, and being mechanic and working at different places. But if you had access to numbers at any corporation, any big mechanic dealership, whatever, if you were to look, at least between 75 and 90% of the income is from the service department, because that is something that is always going to be needed. There's always vehicles, there's always tractors, they're always going to have something break on them that somebody experienced and professional is going to have to repair. You sell a part, that's a one-time thing. You sell a piece of equipment, that's a one-time thing. A service is a continuous thing. A service is always going to be needed. Mechanics are needed, period. It's just strange how we're kind of bottom of the barrel, whereas sales gets the most, or a parts department or parts person gets more because of what they sell. Well, we'd sell the same thing. We install the part. We make the diagnostics to get the proper repair made. So that's what I have seen in my years of being a mechanic for corporations.
How does a typical dealership, make money through warranty?
It really goes down to the manufacturer on what they can pay, and then what they do is they tell the mechanic, okay, well, let's say this repair is booked for 20 hours. They'll tell the mechanic they only have 5. And if you don't make the 5, well, that's a big fuss, but the dealership's still going to get that 15 hours of pay, regardless of what the mechanic does. but I guarantee the mechanic won't see any of that extra 15 hours.
And so is the warranty rate that the manufacturer pays for warranty work, is that at a reduced rate or is that the regular rate?
The manufacturer sets the rate. They actually have a book. I've seen, it's not just the one I'm with, but others. They have a set book of how much they'll pay per warranty repair.
And that's both the hourly rate and the amount of time it takes per task.
Exactly.
I would probably assume that the rate that they pay for warranty work is actually less than the billable rate to any regular customer.
It will be, because the manufacturer looks at it as, okay, this is our deal. We screwed up, but we don't want to pay this much to get it fixed.
Okay.
If we'll want the customer to pay if it comes down to a customer paying, because I know certain companies, they'll make the customer pay the drive time, and then the companies will back charge the manufacturer for just the amount of time the work is done. Even the manufacturers will specify, hey, we're going to pay for this amount of miles with this amount of drive time, but anything exceeding that has to be on customer's dime. So they're still setting the standards. They're still setting minimums and maximums on what they can do and what they're going to allow per their piece of equipment.
And so there's a chance that the dealer is still actually profiting from warranty work, because even though it's a reduced rate, if they get 20 hours and it takes them 15 or 10 hours to actually do it, they make the profit that way. They charge for more hours, but a reduced rate. They could actually do well from warranty work.
They can, but warranty work is far and few between.
Okay.
Depending on what industry you're in. In terms of agriculture, there's not a lot of warranty work. I know I mentioned a lot of the depth headers I've replaced. At least 40% of those have been a warranty issue, and the manufacturer will pay for that repair, and they'll pay for the part. The same thing, they won't pay for the drive home mileage, but the company who is repairing the manufacturer's machine will still get the top dollar out of it. They're still going to make a good chunk of change, so to speak.
That's interesting. So that's could be a cash cow also for the manufacturer, because they're selling the parts that are not warranted, and there's a higher failure rate as opposed to before or after treatment emissions stuff was actually mandated in the manufacturers benefit from it as well. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
That's very interesting. Does your management or management in general, anywhere that you've ever worked, but specifically, your current place, do they ever consult with you as to what your thoughts are on how you could how the company could improve what they do or how they run the business from your perspective?
Not necessarily, because I'm viewed as a young guy. What I say isn't what to their standards, or my ability on what to do isn't going to help them any. They just want to see what they can get out of me, so to speak.
It's all about the bottom line, is what you're saying.
It's all about the bottom line. It's all about money. It's that big question: how much?
That's interesting.
That's my biggest thing. Yeah, that's my biggest thing. I tell people it's always how much. I have consulted with my higher up, my service manager, and he's come to me for certain things. Okay, we're going to do this. How much are we going to charge, or how much should we charge, or how much time goes into this repair? And yes, I've consulted with him here and there, but anybody above them, they don't really want to hear what the mechanics have to say. There's a few that I have talked to that do influence that, but not many. It really does come down to what the book says, what the company can charge, and how efficient it is. Like, there's things that we do that it says it'll take 2 hours, but we know as mechanics it'll take 5 for what is entailed just to make that happen. And we tell them, hey, this is not feasible as a mechanic for what you have to do to get to this. It looks good on paper, but it doesn't work out in physical aspect of things to actually perform the task. It's very strange. You would think that they would talk to the mechanics that do put their hands on this equipment daily, or vehicles or whatnot, to see what would better them, but they don't. And that's just it's very odd,
So let's just say, just to understand the billing model, or the model of where it is that you're working, or I'm sure all dealers are pretty much the same in that sense. So if they ask you how much is it going to cost for this job to be done, and you say, you know what, I think based on the model year of the tractor, I would say it's going to take 10 hours, right?
Yes, sir.
And so they bill the customer whatever, maybe they pad it and tell the customer 12 hours just in case there's unforeseen issues that come up. The customer approves the 12 hours, and the service manager, whatever, is kind of committed to getting that job done for 12 hours. It might take 10, but halfway through the job, you go and say, hey, I found this, and it's just going to take us a little bit longer. So let's just say in the end, the job actually takes 16 hours. Within the original scope, it just took you 4 hours longer, even though let's assume that they only bill the client 12 hours for the job, even though it took 16. Do you still get paid 16?
That's a gray area. From what I have seen working for our corporations, you will still get paid for 16 hours, but those 4 extra hours are definitely going to get held back somewhere in a logbook, so to speak, that is going to go under review. Because if a corporation looks at you and says, okay, well, we've been giving you these jobs that are taking 10 hours, 12 hours, and you're taking 15, 17 hours on them, well, that means the company has to pay that individual those extra 4 hours. Well, the company's not going to like that. The company's going to look at that and go, okay, either you need to increase your efficiency, or you need to figure out a different way to do this, or we're going to have to find somebody different to do the job because you can't do it to our standards. Whenever a company is set in stone on what they're going to charge a customer, they're set in stone. They're not going to call a customer and say, hey, we're going to have to do this. Or you work your 16, they turn around and go, okay, well, Mr. Customer, we had to go an extra 4 hours over. We're going to need you to pay this. And then it's a 50-50 where the customer is going to be like, sure, I understand it, or no, this is what you quoted me. This is what I'm going to pay, and I'm not paying the extra. And then it turns into a whole mess of things. So I don't quite know how corporations do that side of things. I haven't been around that enough to know those kind of details. But I do know that's kind of the thing they're looking at. If how much money is this individual actually costing the company versus what they're paying them, and whether or not they're going to be feasible to stick along and keep going within that company.
Let's just say you go into work regular day and you have 3 jobs to do, or 1 or 2 or whatever. Do you get paid from the moment you clock in until the moment you leave, regardless?
I am paid hourly, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The idea of flag hour is not a big thing down here for some reason. There's certain jobs where you go, man, I wish I was paid flag hours. And there's certain jobs you go, this is probably a good thing I don't get paid flag hour.
What's
but
flag
you're still
hours?
costing that customer. So we use the term flag hour based on, like we're saying, so we tell the customer it's 12 hours. If the mechanic can get it done in 10, he's going to get paid 12 hours. Versus I clock in the morning, I work all day and get done at whatever time I leave, clock out, and I get paid for those hours, not for what I have billed for that day.
Got it. Okay.
So we've coined the term calling it flag hours.
Okay. But there are companies that you've either worked at or that you know of that charge flag hours. So basically, if you're quick and efficient and you do a 10-hour billable job in 8 hours, you as a mechanic also get paid for that 10.
Yes, but I'm going to tell you now, you're going to see less and less of that happening.
Why?
The companies have figured out that is actually losing them money, because now the mechanic is profiting off of the company for what they charge the customer.
What they're going to do is, you said it's going to be changing, so they're going to pay you for 8 if that's what it took you, but they're still going to charge the customer for 10.
That's basically what that, or the higher ups are going to look at the mechanics, so the service manager anyways. They're going to charge the customer 12 hours. They know the mechanic can have it done in 8. They're going to go, okay, you've got 8 hours to do this.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Do they ever put you in touch directly? How often do you interact directly with the client?
With this company, I interact with them quite often. A lot of them have my personal number, just because if I need to get in the truck, and you leave my house, get in the truck, and get out to where they need to be, that's the kind of way that I work with this company. Is I was hired on specifically for field work, and I do both in shop and field. Now, I do have a lot of personal connection with those customers, not just, hey, I need you to call the company. You can't call me. I can't have any contact with you. I don't do that because I like to talk to my customers. I like to tell them, hey, this is how long this is going to take me. So they know clearly what they're going to have to pay for. Not, oh, well, so-and-so said this. Well, I got to pay you this. Well, that doesn't add up, So yes, I have a very independent touch with the customer, so to speak, to where they know clear as day what they're getting and what they're going to have to pay and what
But
they're going to have to do and what's going to happen.
it also prevents a lot of communication breakdown because if there's some go between with the service manager and the customer, and then you're talking with the service manager about what the customer said, I think that taking that one level of potential miscommunication out, I think that's also a much more efficient way of working. Do you think that dealerships in general try to prevent the direct communication with the mechanic?
They do, because the mechanics are the inside people. In fact, I had that today, as a matter of fact. I went out on a call. It's about a 2-hour drive away. I was told this specific machine would not go over a certain speed. So getting out there and getting the machine, well, the machine works fine. Finally, I contact the customer, and he goes, oh, no, this is the problem. So it's like a big game of telephone. You know what telephone is?
Yeah.
That's basically what this is, and that's the miscommunication we see constantly. And I don't blame any individual for that. A lot of the service managers, a lot of times they're for the mechanics. They're not really there just to make money. The ones that I've fortunately been able to work under, but they get so many things going, and they either get a quick description or they hear what they think they want to hear and they relay it to the mechanic. Well, it's a lot of times that's not the case. It's something completely different, or it's not even. It's in the realm, but it's not the issue that's been talked about, so to speak. So yes, I do agree with you. I think that mechanics need to have communication with the customer so they know what they're getting into and the customer knows what they're getting into. Because I do a lot of communication with my customers, whether I'm in shop or out in the field. Hey, I've got your part. I'm coming out to you. This is what it costed you. Or, I'm out in the field with them. I said, hey, this is what we got to do. This is the amount of time it's going to take. This is the cost of the part and the labor. So, like I said, back to being the transparency of things so that they know what they're getting and not having to deal with somebody who sits in an office all day and struggles and is frustrated with trying to get things hashed out in the shop, and they have a customer calling for some work or they have a customer calling for an update. Mechanics really should be in touch with their customers if it's feasible. I'm not saying all the time it is, but diesel mechanics, going out in the field or working to where you're working on equipment or even working on semis, it's very, very important to be in contact with the customer. That is your only, well, not your only, that is your main source for what's going on. The customer's going to know. The service manager wasn't there. They're not going to be there operating the machine to tell you what's going on. The customer's operating. The customer knows what needs to be done. So that's my pick.
Do you ever run into issues where the customer gets you to come and fix something, and even though you're in direct communication with the customer, they specifically or purposely hold information from you that they might know, but they don't tell you for one reason or another, and then you spend a day or half a day diagnosing something, and you discover what it is, but you're like, why didn't you tell me that in the first place, that it was doing that or wasn't doing that? Or do you ever get that?
Yeah, I've had it a couple of times, and a lot of times it happens during harvest when for my side anyways, from when the farmers are in such a rush, because like I said, it's time is of the essence. They're trying to hurry up and get the crop in before the weather changes or before certain things happen, and they tend to leave some very important information out, and it's kind of hard to get them to say, hey, can you stop for a minute and talk with me on what's going on? They don't really want to because they don't think they have the time to do it. We've got some big guys around us, a couple of large farms that I work with. And honestly, I've had a couple of them to where one has told me to my face that he doesn't feel that my company is big enough to work with his farm, or that we don't have the mentally capable mechanics to work on his stuff. So they intentionally leave stuff out to kind of test. He tests that individual. And that's aggravating as a mechanic. But I have had that. I've had that to where vital information is left out. And it does create a longer work time. Or, you'll call the customer, they'll tell you one thing and you call them again when you've kind of sort of got an idea. Well, that might change, or they might add something else to it that can completely change your diagnostic steps to where it's different. I've had a couple of them machines that have had steering issues, and it's okay. We're going to look at this. Well, I've also had this. It's like, well, that needed to be known before even going out and starting on a diagnostic procedure. The transparency with customers needs to be there as well. in terms of communicating with the mechanic. Yeah.
And maybe some of the customers maybe feel stupid. Maybe they try to fix something by themselves and they screwed it up even worse. And their ego or whatever, they prefer you to just figure it out on your own. And
The mentality is, look, we pay you to do this. You need to figure it out. We're not going to help you. And that's happened.
that's crazy
That's
because they're
happened
paying
quite a
for
bit.
it, right?
Yeah, they're paying for that extra time that
Yeah.
you took figuring out something when, hey, a simple conversation could save the customer a couple of $100.
Do you remember a moment when you went to fix something that had already been fixed by a previous mechanic and you go to it and it's hard for you to hold back from saying, like, what the hell did they do? They absolutely screwed it up. Or maybe it was, I don't know, maybe it was the end on a Friday, right before a weekend, and they closed it up and forgot something or screwed something up major that you had to go fix?
Yes, that does happen quite often. And in my location, we have a couple of inexperienced mechanics that have attempted to fix certain things and send them out, and then I have to go back and basically, there's a term we have for it, do the reworks, so to speak. And a lot of times it could be something simple that's causing a major issue, or it's something major that's causing a simple issue. But it was either overlooked or, as I said, an inexperienced tech had hands on it. And it is kind of hard to not tell a customer, hey, this is not correct. This is how it should have been done. But you try not to, because you don't want that done to you. You want to have mechanics that are with each other and not against each other. That's what's slowly disappearing, is the mechanics are at each other's throats. He did this way. Well, that's not correct. Well, not to this person. It might be correct to that person. And it's just a big finger pointing game. But I try not to instigate that, and as an individual, because, like I said, I don't want that done to me. But better yet, teach that technician. Let them know what was incorrect and try to get them to figure out, okay, well, we need to do it this way, so that way this doesn't happen. Kind of a preventative measure. To answer your question, I have seen that quite a bit, and it's becoming more frequent. It also comes down to those independent mechanics that work on stuff on their own, and it finally comes in, or I finally get to look at it, and it's like, this isn't done anywhere near where it's supposed to be done.
Why do you think the finger pointing has started? Is that because mechanics are from the new school instead of the old school? Like, what do you think?
Yes, I'm a younger individual, but I was taught very old-fashioned ways of fixing stuff, and I kind of hit along really well with the older generation of mechanics. But the guys come in, these younger individuals come in and try to change the methods. And yeah, they might get the same outcome, but it might not be right, or it might not be the right way. And it also comes down to, well, now you're costing that other mechanic money, because it kind of flies back to them as, they had to rework it because it wasn't correct. So a lot of finger pointing comes down to who does what, because then they feel like they're on the chopping block for getting fired.
Interesting. Tell me, you're considering going on your own. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, I am.
What's holding you back?
Right now is actually getting set up and trying to find ways to get my name out there to the people in this area. When I was independent, I didn't really come around where I'm currently working, but down here, there's more work for me, so to speak, due to the farm area. But getting set up in a vehicle, a truck, is one of the hardest things, and I know the insurance is probably top of the list for us down here. Insurance is such a pain, whether it's for vehicles or it's for individuals, and even accidental insurance is hard to get. Our insurance rates are through the roof right now. But getting set up, the three things is going to be the insurance, the truck, and actually getting a name out there, so you actually can get in the truck, get out there, and start making money within the first week or so. Because if you don't have your name out there, well, you're kind of sitting there twiddling thumb waiting for something to happen. It's getting the advertisement of, hey, this individual can do this for you. That's the biggest thing that's kind of made me a little leery to jump the boat right now and get out there and start working for myself again. Because we've had a few customers out here, or a few farmers that have had individuals that have done work that have actually caused major catastrophe. I've got a farmer who would bring his combine in regularly. Right as harvest was starting, he was in the middle of harvesting his corn. His turbo went out, so he hired an independent mechanic who came out, who didn't do something quite right, and wound up blowing the sixth cylinder out of the bottom of the engine while he was harvesting. So that engine was trashed. So we went and bought another combine, had another individual look at it, Here this past week, that combine caught fire because of an electrical hazard. So it also comes down to proving to people that, hey, I can do the electronics part. I can PM this. I can do the preventative maintenance, preventative measures to keep this machinery going for you, so you don't have the downtime, you don't have the heartache, and you don't have the financial crisis you could have with having something that large, that expensive going down. So it's just kind of the validation as well. It's going to be difficult, but I think I can, if I can get the ball going the right way, I think I can get out there and get that advertisement for myself going quite well.
What about financially? Is that a concern? You talked about that for the first few weeks, but are you worried about not having that regular pay? Is that a driver of what's kind of caused you to wait?
Yeah. As of right now, I've got a family. I'm starting. In fact, my firstborn, my first child, will be born here in the next couple of weeks, and that's been a huge thing in the front of my mind on making sure I can provide for my wife and kid. That's the biggest thing. As a married individual, that's my biggest goal. What can I provide for them to have them a comfortable and safe life, and not have to stress or worry about anything. So yeah, having that going, and it may come down to, well, I'm going to get the ball going. I might do some work on the weekends or after work to get my name out there. And when I finally have that clientele list built up, then I can say, okay, I can step away and I'm financially ready, and I have the clientele list I need to keep the money flowing in just enough to keep everything going that I'm doing.
So do you have an amount of money saved to buy a service truck?
I did. Like I said, when those tornadoes came through, we had some stuff happen to where a lot of that had to get dwindled down to a few $1,000s just because of damages and stuff like that, and helping family members and close friends for what happened to them. So that was kind of a pushback for me on our end.
So then if you were to find a good service truck and have to finance it, not necessarily, multi-$100,000 brand new service truck, but are you opposed to going and buying a proper service truck that will do you for a few years, and going into debt for that?
If it means that I could at some point build myself up with a better truck and a better company name, yes. I mean, I'm all about starting from the beginning. Even my experience level, I can start from wherever I need to be, whether it's going out and servicing lawnmowers to finally getting out and servicing large tractors. If that's what it takes, that's what it takes. You can't be picky in this day and age. You got to take what you can and work with what you got.
So you touched on it before, but the primary reason for deciding to go on your own, there's a lot of different reasons, like freedom, more money, control over your work-life balance, all of that stuff. How would you rate it in what order?
It would be the freedom. Working that, having to get up every morning and going into a job and clocking in and having to deal with the corporate BS it tears a man down. You go in and deal with the same stuff every day, the same BS. But working for yourself, you make your own hours. You make your own time, you make your own money. You make more time for your family life or yourself, which you may not get working for a corporation. You're under their hook. You're under their rules. You make your own rules and you do what you need to do. And it's a pro and a con, because working for yourself, well, that means you're available 24/7, so to speak. And I wouldn't have a problem with that. My significant other says, she doesn't have a problem with that. She understands, because she knows this is what I do. This is what I like to do. This is my livelihood. So it would be definitely freedom, and then after that would be money, and whatever else follows after that.
Yeah, that's really important. If you have a wife or partner that understands that you want a better life for your family, and especially bringing a new one into the world as well, there's, costs that come with that. But I think it's motivation personally. It's motivation to do better and to, grow, in every aspect. If they're patient and understanding about the fact that you could have to work 7 days a week, 16-hour days, that's cool, because it does require your wife to be very understanding and, an equally hard worker in the sense of.
It requires a devotion from both sides.
That's correct.
A devotion to the work and a devotion to that individual doing the work. And I'm fortunate enough that I have that,
That's amazing.
Not everybody can say that.
So tell me right now, in a work week, like, do you do 8-hour days? Like, what is your Monday to Sunday look like? When do you wake up? You're an employee right now for a dealership. So tell me what that looks like, just briefly.
So I get up at about 6 o'clock in the morning just to tend to my animals here at my house for my location first, and then I get up and I go. After that, I get dressed, going to work, and I do work a 40-hour week in a regular day, regular week. But come harvest time, I sometimes can work 60, 65 hours for the corporation. I'd rather do that on my own to say, I'm actually helping that farmer and not the corporation. Just what it kind of feels like. I put in those 65-hour weeks. That's not for me. That's for the corporation. That's for what they can get out of it. And my wife knows that, and she knows that I'm kind of striving to go back and do it for myself. But and she knows the hours, and she understands that when I'm working, I work occasional like harvesting during harvest time for us, which typically is between June and November is our harvest. This year, fortunately, we're over early with harvest. She knows that it's going to take more as an independent, but that's also part of why I want to get some other people alongside with me who can help that workload as well. But I want them to make their own money. I want them to do their own thing. I want them to be successful on their own, doing their own thing, even though we're going to be working together, so to speak.
So your 5-year plan, not even plan, but a dream, if everything worked out, without, not to say everything's going to work out perfectly, but you've got ups and downs, but generally things go in the direction that you want it to. What is the next 5 years? What does your outlook look like for you in, if things go well, where do you want to be in 5 years?
Well, I know as of right now, the first year is going to be the hard year. The first year and a half to 2 years is typically what we refer to as the hiccup year, because you're either going to be in debt after the first 2 years or you're going to break even. But those first 2 years are very, very important for growth and getting your name out there. So I know the first 2 years are going to be difficult. Hopefully, if I was to break it down year by year, the first year I'd be by myself and maybe have a couple of people. The second year I could maybe branch out and maybe get a newer, keep repairing mine or upgrading it to where it would be better and more beneficial and more efficient for what I'm doing in that second year. In that third, fourth, and fifth year, we're still slowly building, but not building big enough to hit a corporation status. I still want to be small time. I want to have no more than probably 5 or 6 guys, maybe 10 at most, working with me doing what we're doing. And those guys have got to be devoted as I am to getting the equipment repaired, getting the farmers back out in the field and get them going. Even if they don't even do farm work, if they go to working on vehicles, roadside service, they have to have that devotion. And that's where I see a lot of my growth is going to be in devotion and who I can get to go along this journey with me, and to stick through. So I'm thinking towards if I was to start Monday, get out there, get my own truck, start working. It's going to be a difficult year. Second year is going to be a little better. Third year is going to be pretty good. Fourth year and fifth year are probably going to be about the same, and then just slowly start building the name up, slowly start building that up. But my biggest thing is I don't want to hit corporate status. I don't want to hit corporate costs, because that's what I'm trying to stay away from. I don't want to be a part of that anymore. It's just not feasible for myself, and I don't think it's fair to my customers or my farmers or anybody that has to deal with them.
What do you think the industry could do to make heavy equipment mechanics more appealing to younger people?
Offer some more schooling. Down where I'm at, there's just a handful of schools that do. Fortunately, I was able to go with an actual college that offered a diesel program for both on and off-road diesel, and actually have a degree behind it. But the other tech schools that are around me, I mean, people are going to have to spend $45,000-$50,000 just to go through a year, just to learn basics. I think the schooling would be better access to schooling for a younger generation would definitely be better, to allow that integration for younger generations to work with, or younger people to work with older people who have been around the industry long enough to know the ups and downs, the in and outs, the good and the bad, the whole 9 yards. I mean, that's the biggest thing, is actually getting the younger people to be excited to want to do this. The work ethic of our younger people, right now, it's really not there. And I hate to say that, but whether it's mechanic work or even farming, it's not there, because nobody wants to do it because they don't want to get their hands dirty. So it's just a matter of showing them, hey, you can go out in this field and you can do this. This is the loyalty you'll have, the pride you'll have in your work as well, the backing and making a name for yourself. That to show them that, hey, this is what we can do. as mechanics, mind you, whether you're corporate or not, or dealership or not, or independent, but just kind of a little more openness for those individuals to go along and say, okay, well, here's what we do. Kind of, I'll give them some programs to work with, whether they pay for it or they get granted for it from the government or whatnot, to actually go and want to learn this skill. Because when I was going through schooling, we didn't have more than 10 or 15 people per class, which is pretty low numbered for what you see at a different curriculum and in education, for whether it's nursing or welding or lawyer or whatever. Those are small numbers. I'd like to see more programs involving younger generation. There are some programs around for us down here for high school kids to be a part of shops and go in to get some of those technical courses. I'm very big, like as you can tell, I'm very largely involved with the agricultural side of things. And the high schools, the FFA programs, the 4-H programs, some offer those mechanic programs, some offer those welding programs. I'd like to see more of that, more involvement, more allowance for that. And even for the people who may not think it's financially feasible for them to do it, to kind of offer them, hey, here's what it could do. Here's what we can do. Here's what we can help you do. And kind of offer more programming to get them that financially, or even just OJT, on-job training, or just going to a school to learn even the most basics. Now, I would like to see even high schools offering basic mechanic classes, fixing a car, changing spark plugs, changing brakes, doing little stuff like that, to kind of get them in the feel of, okay, I can do this. What else can I do to better myself with these skills? We don't see those anymore. I know back in the 60s and 70s, and I think even back in the 50s, they offered a mechanics class. They quit doing that.
But what is that driven by?
Why.
What is that driven by? Do you think that's a function of the industry that should take charge and to encourage this and to sponsor trade schools and stuff like that?
They will. I don't think they would do that, because it's still what they can make off that. If they're spending money on having younger people learn, well, that's money they're losing entirely. They're not even making a profit off of it. You're asking if they monopolize that. I mean, if you look at an operator's manual, if you took a car from the 60s and you took a car from today, that car from the 60s will tell you how to set the valves on your engine. The manual from today will tell you not to drink the frickin' coolant, because it's bad for you.
That's incredible.
So there's a huge difference. I mean, you could go back and find manuals. It's insane. I think they did that up until, I believe it was the mid to late 80s. They had manuals that could tell you how to change a tire, how to do your valves, how to change your spark plugs, how to set everything you need to do. But all the operators' manuals now tell you bare minimum and give you more warnings. But again, that's a generation that's people we're coming into, and that's what the industry for manufacturers is trying to do. They don't want you to work on your own stuff anymore. They want you to go to somebody to pay them, whether it's the manufacturer's dealership or an actual shop. They want those individuals to go to those people to pay for that, so that way they can monopolize the service side of things. Because like I was saying earlier, service is mandatory. You have to have people working service. You have to have people. You have to have mechanics. Everything's got wheels that moves, and I say this very generally, but everything's got wheels. Everything's got an engine. It's going to have to get worked on. Nothing's bulletproof anymore. It's not the same.
So then the long game, I mean, it seems as though more people, mechanic-wise, are leaving the industry as opposed to new ones coming in. Do you agree with that?
I do. It's because of what we have to go through from corporate or higher ups. They don't. It goes back to the number thing. You're a name. You're a number, not a name.
It's a long game. I equate it to research and development, scientific advancement. You could spend millions of dollars in several years to make an advancement that eventually industry will benefit from. But if the industry is not investing in that, trial and error, call it, then they'll never be able to advance and, have another generation of new technology or whatever. So I think that the industry, like you said, is too focused on the bottom line, but they're not thinking 10 years out, even though a lot of them do, like the bean counters at head office. the accounting department thinks about what their share value will be then. But I just see, and that's one reason we started the channel, the YouTube channel, is to inspire the next generation, because we ourselves needed to hire mechanics and we couldn't find anyone. So we definitely took the long game. We're not big corporate either. It's cool to see people becoming interested in it. So I think that I think the larger industries are worried about other things, but we like being independent. It works well. But
And I don't blame you. And I'm going to tell you from what I've seen. Like I said, I just happened to stumble across one of your videos, and I was just absolutely amazed. That y'all are doing what you're doing, and I'm going to applaud you for it, because what your company stands for is amazing, and I wish we had more of that. I genuinely wish we did.
well, cool, man. No, I appreciate your time too, because this is gonna, people will listen to this and hopefully be inspired, and you'll help share your knowledge. You're very knowledgeable, and yeah, we want to continue that. Speaking of inspiring, what's the most rewarding part of what you do?
Being able to tell the customer it's ready and it's good to go, and actually having them get into their equipment and starting it up. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen older customers just their face light up, because they just think that it'll never be fixed. And actually having that accomplishment of saying, okay, I put my hands on this. This is what I did. This is what I was able to do to fix this problem, and to actually prove that it worked, and to show the customer and let them run it. To me, I've had that countless times, and it's such a great feeling. It really makes me feel, okay, you know what? Maybe I'm actually making a difference, in this day and age, for what I can do with my skill set. And that is my most inspiration. There is, what can I do for a customer today? What can I do for that individual? Make them feel good and make them feel like somebody actually cares enough to get them going in a manner of time that's feasible. What can I do to help that? And that's the biggest thing. I get a lot of customers that, hey, I really appreciate what you've done. I really appreciate what you can do, and what you were able to accomplish for me, and it really made a difference. I mean, hearing that really makes somebody feel good. You do as much as you can, and you eh, try to change the world as best as you can with what you're able to do. And hearing that, yeah, that makes a man really feel good about himself and what he can do.
That's cool, man. Hey, what tool do you wish you bought earlier in your career?
Man, the Power Probe, that thing is a beast. I use it every day. Yeah, no, I don't use it on CAN bus, but yeah, I use that thing every day. It's been a lifesaver. Yeah, I still got a multimeter, but being able to put a power to something, if you're working on an AC blower and it's not working, well, you want to verify that component works. For you to just be able to direct that power, man, that thing is the best tool I've had.
So explain that again. It's called the what?
Power Probe.
Power probe.
Yeah, for one I have, you plug into a battery and you've got a 32-foot cord on it, and you can supply 12 volts, or you can supply ground to something. It'll tell you if it's good or not. You can, right below the grip of this thing, it's like one of those forehead thermometers, I guess is the best way to talk about it or describe it. And it's got a long probe on the end, and then right below it's got a little pigtail with a clamp, and that's a ground and a power. You can test the component. You can bring power right to that component without running a long string of wires and holding wires to something. I mean, this thing it's cool. I just recently got this tool probably 8 months ago, but I don't go anywhere without it. It stays in the truck, stays on my bench. I mean, it's an everyday use tool.
Wow, that's cool, man. Have you ever had to customize a tool, modify a tool?
Oh, all the time. All the time. Bending wrenches, making crow's foot wrenches. I mean, we're always trying to find ways to make it easier on ourselves, you know.
What's the most unique tool that you've customized for yourself?
That's a tough one. I got a lot of those. But I tell you what, back when I worked on 7.3 Ford Power Strokes, the good old the one hell of an engine. The ICP sensors, the stems on them were just too long for any regular deep socket, and I managed to make a deeper socket that you can go buy one now, but they didn't have them back when I was working on them. And I managed to get two sockets together and make it long enough to make it easier to remove those sensors. And that little handmade tool was like the biggest thing I had in the toolbox. Everybody wanted to borrow it because it was just readily available, it was easy to use. I'm all about trying to make things easier on myself and other technicians. So yeah, that socket that I made was probably the biggest thing. I know it doesn't sound like much to a lot of people, but for me, that was a big change.
Sometimes it's the simple things.
Yes, sir.
Are you always learning new things?
Oh, every day. We learn new things every day because the industry is always changing. And that's my favorite thing. I'm never stuck in a rut. With being a mechanic, you can never really be stuck in a rut as long as you're doing repairs. There's always something new to learn.
That's awesome. Okay, last question for you. Do you have any questions? Are you curious about anything that you would like to ask any of the mechanics who are on our channel?
I couldn't think of anything good or witty, but I tell you what, just tell them, hey, keep going. I like watching the videos, and hopefully I can get to that point one day, because that's my goal, being a truck. As a matter of fact, right before you called, I was fueling up my personal vehicle, and a gentleman pulled up beside me in a brand new Peterbilt work truck, and I just was drooling over it, man. It was nice. But yeah, tell those guys they're doing great. Like to see them from way down here in Texas, what they're doing, and to just keep going.
Cool, man. Thank you very much for your time. A big thank you to Hunter for joining us today and sharing his insights. And thanks everyone for listening. If you've got any questions for Hunter or want to share your thoughts on this episode, leave us a comment on YouTube and a 5-star review anywhere else. If you want to send us comments or would like to be a guest on the show, you can email us at media@tekamohd.com. Thank you.